So this is our Rise of Skywalker special, and I think the Rise of Skywalker already happened back in episode 5 when Leia kissed him.
Something was up at least.
I'm Captain VinzerFlinn, and you're listening to Shitfaced in Hyperspace. Obi-Wan's Force Ghost going, ooh!
I agree. Obi-Wan's Force Ghost is like, shit, I forgot to tell him. Shit, I forgot to tell him. Shit, I forgot to tell him.
Perhaps there was something we should have told him. Alright, Rise of Skywalker. Anyone want to take the first shot?
It was an interesting end to the series. Not sure how I feel about it, but I've only seen it once.
I have mixed feelings. Like, I enjoyed the movie, but there were parts of the movie I just did not like.
Agreed.
Let your hatred flow, Cryous. What did you not like?
I think the dagger was the stupidest MacGuffin ever in a movie ever. And it's really weird. Star Wars usually doesn't do the MacGuffin type thing. And then I thought Palps was a poor choice of bad guy. That's all.
Completely agree on the dagger thing. I thought it was a little silly. So the first thing on my list here is about Palpatine. The opening crawl. The dead speak. They revealed, I thought we were going to see Emperor maybe 75% of the way through the movie. Nope. He appeared sometime between episodes 8 and 9. We get him right away. I thought that was a really weird choice.
Yeah, there's no like build up as to like who is the mastermind. It's like you might as well just might have started the crawl with Palpatine has returned.
Seriously. I mean, I kind of missed that we didn't get to see that where his voice supposedly rung out across the galaxy. I mean, I want to see that.
I just feel like bringing him back kind of invalidates the end of Jedi.
So the big question I'm wondering about is, was this always the plan, or did they decide to do this in the last year or two, when they were making this movie?
Somebody claiming to be an insider says there was a bunch of Disney meddling in this movie. A bunch of decisions that JJ didn't like that he had to live by.
Which leads me to my other big question about this movie. Do you feel, or do we feel as Star Wars fans, that they were trying to make up for The Last Jedi, which is a lot of fucking internet neckbeards feel they were owed something because they didn't like Last Jedi, which I think is shit. If you didn't like a movie, you didn't like a movie. But do we feel this movie was trying to make up for Episode 8?
I think that definitely the film was trying to make up for Episode 8. You get a lot of the senses of them trying to backpedal on a couple of the major plot points from the last movie.
Yeah, the whole referring to is the Holdo maneuver, and that's a 1 in a million chance it'll never work again. Kind of backs up that one.
I think not so much like retcon or whatever, but I did think that because they didn't really leave any dangling plot threads at the end of The Last Jedi, the first like third of the movie had to be like the exposition that should have been in the middle movie. Like, I don't know if you guys feel the same way or not, but I thought the first third where they're searching for the dagger and the nav holocron, whatever the frig it was called, just went by really quickly.
It was very breakneck speed, I thought. Like, it hardly took a stop for a breath.
There were some parts of the film that I really felt like should have been introduced in the last film. And I think that gives that sense that maybe the directors weren't really talking to each other as like the overall storyboard happened, because I honestly think that for one of the biggest plot points being the return of Emperor Palpatine should have been introduced in the last film, so that it kind of builds up to what we got in The Last Jedi.
They do definitely feel disconnected. So like, I'm not sure, like way up in the golden Lucasfilm tower, like I honestly want to know, did they go into this with a plan, or did they go into this with like a loose shotgun of a plan and then just handed it off to JJ and Ryan and whoever the third director was supposed to be and be like, Go, peons, make us money, because we know it'll make money.
I'm betting that there was a plan, but I feel like somewhere along the way the plan changed.
Because The Force Awakens set up lots of things, right? Snoke is the bad guy, new Darksider, Kylo Ren, fucked up Luke's Academy, Knights of Ren are bad guys.
It was nice to see
Who the heck
Knights
is this
of Ren
Rey
finally.
chick? Yeah, but they didn't do anything.
No, none of them had any lightsabers either, so it's like, they're not even Force trained, I bet.
They marched across the galaxy looking menacing and then basically lost 10-1 against their former boss.
I don't even think they look very menacing. I think they looked very silly.
They got a lot of dirt on their Star Destroyers, though.
Oh, but burying them under the planet? Yeah.
All in all, I enjoyed the movie for the most part, with the exception of the dagger. Merida really liked it. She cried at the end. I appreciated their artful use of the Carrie Fisher stuff, and I was actually genuinely surprised at how much footage they actually had. Like, when they came out and said, we're not going to CG Carrie Fisher, we're just going to use unused footage from The Force Awakens or Last Jedi, I was like, oh, okay, so maybe Leia will only be in this a little bit. She was in there a lot.
Yeah, agreed. A lot more than expected. I mean, we knew she was going to die in this movie, but I feel like the way she died, while it served the story, I guess it still felt a little shoehorned in. Like, okay, she's gonna die because she has to use the Force in this way, and that's just the way it is. Don't ask any questions.
Yeah, it definitely felt like for some of Carrie's scene that they wrote the dialogue around what they already had, as opposed to what would be more natural.
Yeah, and I'm willing to let that one go, at least, just for Carrie. I did actually enjoy, Star Wars doesn't really do much in the way of flashbacks, but they did a flashback of Luke and Leia training when they were younger, and of course they were CGI'd to look younger, but it wasn't overdone. I actually liked it. And all the footage they used of Carrie in this movie, Carrie was the only thing, with the possible exception of a little bit of Chewie things, was the only thing that made me teary-eyed in this whole experience.
Chewbacca nearly broke me in this movie.
Twice.
They used Chewie a lot in this movie, which I loved. He got some action. We thought he died.
He got his medal.
He got Han's medal.
Actually, some people think it's Luke's medal.
When that transport exploded, I was about to have a rage quit in that
Agreed.
Can you imagine the grief Daisy Ridley would get on Twitter or socials or whatever if she was the person who killed Chewbacca? Like, seriously? Like, Twitter would murder her. Like, Kelly Marie Tran would look like, I don't know, a child's playground if literally the Force wielder that everybody hates kills Chewbacca.
The scene in which Rey destroys the shuttle, tug of warring it with Kylo, was kind of clever because she uses Force lightning, which is kind of a big giveaway as to what her heritage is, but it's quickly overshadowed by, oh my god, Chewie just fucking died, so whatever happened before that, we don't fuck it.
The other thing I didn't like was that, we had the oh my god, is Chewie dead, and we had the oh my god, has C-3PO been wiped. And then Disney just played it safe by just undoing it, almost immediately after.
I really did think they were going to leave 3PO like that. When R2 backed him up, I was surprised, because this isn't the first time we've had a 3PO wipe in the Skywalker legacy. I thought it was going to stick.
I thought that based on what we saw in the trailers, it's like I thought C-3PO was just going to be like destroyed. But with the memory wipe thing, I guess it makes sense with the way that they played out the scene. But I honestly thought that he was going to do something that was going to save the day, and it was going to end up completely frying him somehow.
I thought he was going to die too. I thought the same.
Yeah, I was just kind of irked how basically he makes this grand sacrifice willingly, and then they literally, undo it 10 or 15 minutes later.
It wasn't totally willingly, though.
I actually did given, the big breakneck speed of the first part of the movie with everyone running around all crazy, I actually did like the 3PO was along for the ride this time, because he's kind of been in a back seat in the last few movies.
It's true. A lot less BB-8 this movie, too, actually, now that I think about it.
Well, the thing that didn't really make sense to me so much is why BB-8 wasn't so much Poe's droid anymore. It kind of switched to it was more Rey's droid, and Poe kind of took over like with R2D2.
Since you mentioned the second droid in C-3PO just recently, the whole thing about C-3PO and having to go get the Sith language so you could reveal the coordinates, the fucking other droid had it the entire time and nobody checked.
So in the last podcast we did, we talked about, we had to cut it out, but we talked about possible connections between The Mandalorian and The Emperor's Return, and a theory, I can't remember whose it was, but it's a great theory, is Palpatine, who has been probably fucked up for 5 years now since after Jedi, is he manipulating Moff Gideon and whoever else to get a hold of this baby Yoda because Palpatine is aware of the light side healing this child could have and help him.
That'd be a cool tie-in.
Yeah, because the Mandalorian was the first time we saw Force healing, then we get to see it in Rise of Skywalker. So it's a possibility that the reason he wants, or the reason why they're hunting the child so desperately, is because they need to heal Palpatine, and potentially because they fail at that and the Mandalorian makes away with them, that they have to switch plans and go after Rey and do a whole body swap thing.
Was anybody else? Did anybody else get the story beat that they wanted to make sure when the episode of The Mandalorian dropped that they were going to put in the Baby Yoda heal just so that the shock wasn't going to be quite as severe when Rey did it in the movie?
Yeah, I think that might
I
have
saw
been
right
right
through
last
that.
time we discussed that as well, because it's like, oh yeah, sure, they show us Force healing before they show us Force healing, so everybody's aware.
So obviously Palpatine is not his full self. We're not sure if that's his original broken body or if his Sith spirit has gone into a clone, but either way he's pretty fucked up and he's attached to all this crazy, big arms life support system. And I can't remember who I was talking to about this with, but it was really cool because all the scenes with Palpatine were really unnerving and dark, and all those Sith guys in the background. But yeah, that big creepy army was on. That was scary.
The end of the movie kind of bothered me, and that's what you take away is the end of it. I just felt a lot of the parts were long, drawn out, and some of it was kind of dumb. The Force lightning from his chair when he was getting the power to strike down all the Rebel cruisers. And, ugh.
It did feel the ending. I kept waiting for the movie to end, and it just kind of kept going. But I agree, yeah, the big Force lightning at the end, it felt a bit much.
I think a lot of that took away from the cool space battle we could have been watching.
Yeah, we always get shafted on the space battle.
So, every Star Wars, apparently you have to have a super death weapon that can blow up planets. So, you know what's better than one? I bet a planet-sized or moon-sized one. Oh, let's go planet-sized. Oh, they beat that. You know what? Let's put the gun. We'll shrink it down. Put it on 1,000 different fucking Imperial Star Destroyers, which apparently you can't fit a nav beacon on after you do this.
Now, to be fair, in the extended universe, if I recall correctly, they do end up strapping Death Star lasers to ships, don't they?
They've tried several different doomsday machines in the EU, but they're all miniaturized. Nothing's a planet anymore. And someone probably on Reddit raised the idea that the Star Destroyers idea goes back to what Han said about the first Death Star, how that kind of firepower would take 1,000 ships, more firepower than I've ever seen. Speaking
of Han Solo, that was the cameo that surprised the absolute shit out of me.
Me too. Couldn't believe it. They must have locked Ford into a contract back in the first one.
It was well done. I liked that scene.
I'm amused, and if nobody knows, they had the exact same conversation that they did in Force Awakens.
I expected the dad joke part at the end of it. It's like when Kylo says, I don't have the strength to do it. And it's like, yeah, I expect Han to go, yeah, just don't stab me again.
Yeah, I thought that scene was really well done too. That was a nice little last Han thing. Also, when we had talked about Leia and Han, Luke back as a Force ghost. I loved Luke as a Force ghost because where Obi-Wan had that quiet dignity, Luke's like, what are you doing?
Luke's like, child, let me teach you more stuff.
There were so many people online that were raging the fact that Luke could pick up the lightsaber.
Of course they were.
That could be the reversal too from the last movie, The Last Jedi, is where he threw the lightsaber away. So this time he's picking up saying, a Jedi's weapon deserves more respect than that. It's kind of like, yeah, let's go back and fix that.
I didn't think of that. I like that.
Also could show some growth on his part. At the start of The Last Jedi, he was all, oh, fuck this, fuck that, fuck everything. By the end, he was like, yeah, it's probably wrong. I probably should have stayed around.
Mark Hamill insists he disappeared to a nudist colony.
No, thank you.
So what I want to know is, during the entire classic trilogy series, where the fuck was the Emperor's son hiding? I mean, where did he have him squirreled away? And follow-up question, who the hell fucked the Emperor?
These are, well, you know what? Back when Sheev was just the senator from Alderaan, he was a pretty handsome dude before, lightning his own face.
Senator from Naboo. Come on, Cryous.
What did I say?
Alderaan.
Oops, my bad. Take away my Star Wars card. But seriously, where has this magical son been for the last 30, 40 years, 50 years?
I don't even think he's that old based on the way he looked in the film.
No, he didn't look, he kind of looked like in his 30s or something, but yeah. Yeah, where were they hiding him? Must have had him in a room like Scott Evil.
It just seems so out there. Palpatine had a son, and that son had a daughter. That daughter is Rey. And I'm like, really? That's what we're going with? All right.
Yeah, it felt like we got all that on a plate at once, and we should have got it doled out a little more, because it's like, all right, here, eat this.
It's like, you want to know who her dad is? Fine, it is nobody, but her grandfather is somebody.
I just thought it was really funny that they never actually dropped the names of either of the mother or the father character in the whole film.
That's a good point. I didn't think of that.
His son had to have been a complete secret, because if the rebellion had known about him, they would have gone after him for sure.
Maybe we see a little Palpatine kid in the new season of Clone Wars.
It's true. In the shows and stuff, they might build on that. I could see them doing that.
At the end, I don't know why they had to kill Kylo off in the end. He could give half his life force and they could live. I don't see why that was necessary.
It's the following the Vader path. Imagine if Vader had lived, he's redeemed himself. Do you think it's like the galaxy would not accept him? And same with Kylo. He'd have to disappear or something. So when he died, I was like, oh fuck, that's good. That ties up a loose end.
Yeah, I agree.
It was neat seeing her go back to lay the two sabers to rest on Tatooine, since Alderaan no longer exists. It was also interesting to see her new lightsaber. It was a yellow blade.
Yeah, that was cool. That was very Old Republic, I thought.
Very first actual, technically canonical appearance of a yellow lightsaber. Question, do you think it's double-sided or not?
Which I think we've seen in Clone Wars.
And Rebels, yep.
So it's already in canon.
But it's our first live action.
I thought it might be like a force pike or something, because they're all about new and interesting lightsabers, as evidenced in this movie with the encounter with Dark Rey and her flip-up saber, which I thought was a little silly. But as soon as I saw that in the trailer, and everyone's like, ooh, Rey's going to go dark side, I'm like, that's a total throwaway. It'll be there for 2 seconds, and sure enough.
But it was really good.
It was well done. I liked it. But yeah, I was like, yeah, whatever. Rey's not going evil.
No, there's no way.
I would have liked it if Rey had gone to the dark side, and you would have had that kind of you would have needed a longer movie if you were to do that. And if Rey was to go to the dark side after the fight with Kylo Ren, and then having Kylo having switched over to the light side to try to bring Rey back again, could have been an interesting kind of story.
That would have been interesting, and I would have definitely watched that. They would have had to have started that 2 movies ago.
You would have definitely needed a lot more movie for that to work.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I liked The Last Jedi. It was a good film, but it really didn't leave anywhere for this movie to pick up from. At the end of Empire Strikes Back, Han is captured. Next movie, gotta go rescue Han, clearly. Attack of the Clones. Clone Wars have started. Okay, we've got to go fight a war now. At the end of The Last Jedi, I mean, they rescue the remains of the rebellion, but or the Resistance. Sorry, but like there's nowhere to go after that.
It felt like an ending. You're right.
And I mean, and Merritt has brought this point up to me before, is that it just sometimes being the middle movie sucks because you can't wrap your plot line up, right? Because you need to leave something for the third one to pick up on.
I think they kind of tried that with Last Jedi because, like, it's like Empire. It ends on such a down note. Like, the Empire is fucking winning. And they did that kind of with the Battle of Crate. You know, we're down to the last handful of people. We're sending out a call, and it ends on a down note where the bad guys are winning. But it just didn't work this time.
Well, I think that's just because there's no plot hook for the third movie. It's like, yes, the Empire, you know, captured Han and cut Luke's hand off and yada, 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 yada. But there was like, okay, clearly the next movie they're going to go rescue Han Solo because it's Han Solo.
One thought I had is maybe there's a certain bit of, well, there's a lot of fan base apathy, but maybe there is a little here too where we feel like we've kind of been through this already. You know what I mean?
It is a little bit true. I mean, there were just as many parallels between this. Like, I think between the original trilogy and the sequel trilogy, there's a lot of parallels that they tried to draw. Like, this one had the whole dark side force user redeems himself and dies immediately afterwards. Light side force user then goes on to presumably do Jedi stuff. The Last Jedi, Luke is clearly an allegory to Yoda having secreted himself away on a planet by himself and is kind of crazy, etc., etc., etc. So I am happy that this series is, in theory, over, and I am happy and look forward to and hopeful for whatever the heck they come up with next.
And that's what I'm really interested in, is what happens now. Like, we feel like Palpatine's finally defeated, although fucking who knows, he's probably just jumped into another body.
Or is he?
Right?
Dun, dun, dun.
But with the way things ended, I'm like, oh, wow, I actually want to see what happens next.
Yeah, they did end on an interesting note with Lando's conversation, because apparently there's a in-canon novel, Shattered Empire or something, I can't remember what it's called, in between the first and second movies or something to this effect, or prior to the first movie, where Lando's child gets kidnapped, and the people on the planet that all refuted the First Order and abandoned them, they don't know where they're from, so it's potential that I can't remember the character's name, Jaina or something like that, maybe?
I think it's out that it's his daughter. It's canon that it's his daughter.
They did confirm that, and apparently there were more scenes in episode 9 that backed it up, but yeah, they confirmed Jaina is in fact Lando's daughter. And can we talk about how good Lando was in this? Like, I loved him. The Lando appearances really worked for me.
It was really good.
It.
He was used well. He was a smooth old self, but he wasn't overused. You know what I mean? He was used just right.
I don't think Billy D. Williams has that much left in him to be overused.
Yeah, he's no spring chicken anymore, but he did great in this. I really liked Lando in this.
That crossbow shot at the start was like, oh boy.
It was good to see him flying the ship again with Chewie. And so there was, in the final space battle scene, a surprise cameo in one of the turrets of the Falcon that caused me and Phoenix, had Reyna sitting between us, but when we saw this cameo, we both bolted forward in our seats and looked at each other and couldn't believe it. Wedge Antilles. They apparently invited Dennis Lawson Wedge back when they first started remaking these movies, and he said no, and he didn't want to do it anymore, and apparently he regretted that decision, so it was good to see him back, if only for a second and a half.
That's good. I mean, Nian Nub was there. Oh, the one thing that I really noticed, and it's really stuck out, is that one rebel, the bigger guy with the beard, he was fucking in every scene, I swear to God, at the rebel base.
And then he flew in that tiny little A-wing fighter to go into the battle.
Oh, Snap Wexley?
Yes, him.
And promptly blew up.
Yeah, he's dead.
So Vander let me in on this one. So apparently he's like a good friend of JJ, and JJ uses him in everything, like in like minor-ish roles type thing.
So he's like to Abrams, like Ratzenberger is to Pixar.
I'm just going to nod in your general direction, Juice.
I remember him from being in the original Heroes series.
Yeah, that's where I remember him from.
So here's a question. do you think Chewie finally gets to go home after all this? I mean, all his family that was included in the life debt, all the Skywalkers are now dead. So does he go home to Lumpy?
There's a new Skywalker now.
I know, but that's my question. Does his life debt extend now to Finn and Poe and Rey?
I suppose really his life debt was to Han.
Yeah, I considered his life debt done as soon as Han died.
Yeah, it's been kind of one of those things accepted among fans forever that he married Leia, so it went to Leia. Leia's Luke's brother. It went to Luke, and then to his kid Ben Solo. But now, everyone's gone now, right?
That's not how debts work. You don't inherit debts.
No, that's true. That's why fans rationalize Chewie always stuck around and ignored his own family.
Because Wookiees live so long, maybe he just felt they were pets.
Maybe he was intentionally staying away because Lumpy was going through his Wookiee teenage years, and he's like, I'll be back when he's 25.
It's like the opposite of dog years. Chewie's like, I must watch over the different. It's like having a dog, I guess.
Maybe Chewie's Mormon, this was his mission.
So I think one of my favorite moments in the whole movie was when General Hux revealed himself to be the spy, and Poe gave the most emphatic, "What?"
That was dumb. Like, I imagine there are scenes that were building up to that, and maybe did more stuff with it afterwards, but like, he's like, I'm the spy, and then immediately, like 5 scenes later, gets unceremoniously shot by Officer What's-His-Face.
I just love Poe's reaction.
I thought that Hux's character was kind of thrown away needlessly in that film. Like, for me, like, I kind of liked the idea that Hux was the spy, but I kind of think that maybe he should have not been like, shoot me in the leg and I'll go tell them that I was overpowered. Like, if he had just gone and left with them, kind of, it would have made more sense. Maybe they could have, like, not had him, like, oh, you're a rebel now. Maybe they could have had, like, in, like, a prison cell, like, on the planet kind of thing. But I don't think he should have been killed.
Yeah, my problem with a lot of the, like, Force Awakens antagonists is, to me, it clearly felt like, Kylo was the opposite of Rey, Hux was the opposite of Poe, and Phasma was the opposite of Finn. And, like, those were going to be their, like, main antagonists for this trilogy of movies, and then it went nowhere.
Now, Phasma was a wasted character.
Yeah, I can't imagine Gwendolyn Christie had any good feels left, because she seriously doesn't do anything.
I read the canon novelization about Phasma's origin story and how she meets Hux's father, General Brendel Hux, and gets into the First Order and all that shit. And she literally has no redeeming qualities. She is a fucking terrible person. And after Force Awakens, when she let the shield down on Starkiller Base, they did a comic series where she hunted down every last person that knew that and killed her. She is super self-preserving. She's just a terrible, terrible person.
There's actually another scene in The Last Jedi when Phasma is killed where she goes, like, you actually get that kind of side of her where she's standing there and Finn tells all the stormtroopers that are around her what happened. And she actually she pulls out her pistol and she shoots all of them.
Perfectly in line with everything else I've read about her. That's just who she was.
They could have done so much with that, and they didn't.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, it's like going back to Hux's character. In The Force Awakens, he kind of felt like he was a lot higher up in the First Order than he actually was.
Spent the entire Last Jedi movie being domestically abused by Kylo.
Very true.
And starting up very, very many Rule 34 images online.
Oh, God, thanks for that. I hate it.
He was so wasted in Rise of Skywalker. They could have done so much more with him. Except instead they give him 5 minutes and they immediately shoot him.
And his reasons for being the spy totally make sense. Like, he's literally only in it just to see Kylo fail, which is Imperial officer-ishness at its finest. But, like, he does, like, one thing and then dies immediately afterwards. And it's like, well, that seemed like a waste.
I did enjoy his motivation for being the spy. I don't care if you win. He just has to lose.
And then they kind of neatly scooped Rose's character aside. Like, we're just going to pick you up out of the main plot and just kind of set you off over here on the side.
Now, she only had, I read, like a minute and a half of screen time, but I will say I liked her in this, and she gave the feeling, her character, with Leia gone and Poe being in command, now she still gives the feeling that she's going to be one of the main people leading the show now.
There's a few articles online that are saying that she had a bigger role in the film because she did a lot of the interactions with Carrie Fisher, I guess, for this. But I guess they didn't work the way that they wanted, and they ended up getting cut.
I'll be completely honest. Even though she had a minute and a half, I liked what they did with her character here much more than what they did with it in Rise of Skywalker. This, the way they portrayed her in this movie, it felt like she was in charge. She was confident. She knew what she was doing. She was fearless. I really liked it.
They did that, and then they also made the one part about her storyline that I was confused about was the fact that she is in The Last Jedi. She's a ship's engineer, and then in this movie she's a foot soldier.
Well, when your entire organization basically gets wiped out in the last movie, you go with who you have.
Yeah, hey, you're a colonel now.
It's true. When you're shy on manpower, everybody's a grunt.
So, new character in this, what I would like to see more of and learn more about, Zori Bliss.
Yeah, and she just kind of got dropped in too. Like, who is this person? Why are they here? Why are they important now?
She was cool. I dug her, but I really like the helmet. I'm not so sure about that big piece on the back, but I kind of want to build that helmet. She's
literally the Rose Tico of this movie.
I do like at the end how Poe's, nodding his head without saying, "Hey, can I get in your pants?" And she's like, "Nope." Okay.
The being able to pass physical objects between their force connection was really cool to watch with Rey and Kylo, especially when she passes him the lightsaber behind her head. That was super cool.
And then having Kylo Ren or Ben Solo, I guess at this point, do Han Solo's kind of shrug after he's like, "Oh, look what I got the lights."
He really did do a proper Solo shrug there. You're right.
Somebody else pointed out to me is that after the conversation with Han Solo, Ben Solo actually does not speak another word for the rest of the film.
Did he not? I didn't even notice. Shit.
Well, that says something. I'm not sure what, but it says something. Apparently not in his case, but...
It's been too long since I watched the movie. I can't remember everything. Was there a "I love you, I know" moment as well?
I don't think so.
I guess if you consider the kiss between Rey and Ben, maybe.
This series definitely didn't have the love pursuit kind of thing that the old one did.
Yeah.
Even the prequels had Anakin and Padme.
No. Yeah, but it didn't have to be exactly like "I love you, I know." It could have been like maybe when Kylo and Han were talking, Kylo said something along the lines, "I miss you," or something like this, and Han said, "I know." It's like that'd be the same sort of thing, right?
You also get the people that were complaining that there shouldn't be pieces of the Death Star that large, and then you go back to seeing Battlefront 2, like the very first scene of the game, like you're flying through the debris of the Death Star, and there are giant pieces of it left.
Someone some time back posed the idea that all the reactors and shit that would have fallen to Endor would have rendered it like a nuclear winter wasteland and completely destroyed the Ewoks.
Well, having something that large blowing up that close to a planet couldn't be very good for it, I'd imagine.
Well, I guess at least some of them survived because we did see them at the end.
Not to mention that, but it was actually Wicket from the Return of the Jedi.
No shit, I didn't even notice. Cool.
It was the same actor that played Wicket, too. I can't remember the guy's name.
Oh, Warwick Davis. He's in all the Star Wars shit.
So one of the things that really bugged me, I guess, was the fact that why couldn't they have just called it a holocron? Why do they have to call it a Sith Wayfinder?
I know, and it looked like a perfect Sith holocron, too. They're triangular. I spent hours grinding for the fucking things. But yeah, I was like, why did they just call it a holocron?
Wanted only to be two of them, right? So they couldn't call them holocrons because there's more holocrons.
Oh, that's fair.
And holocrons are normally like vast informational storage devices. These two things just did one thing.
We just like the word holocron.
It's true,
Yes,
we do.
yes, we do.
What did you guys think of the knife, like the Goonies knife thing, to try to find where the that Wayfinder was?
Yeah, Cryous, what did we think of it?
Stupidest thing I've ever seen in a Star Wars movie. So we have this dagger that's buried on a planet that nobody ever goes to and has been there for a really long time, that somehow the blade carvings match a or a chunk of debris from a space station that's only been there for like 30, 25 years-ish. So like either the knife was really quite new and was made to look old, or they pulled it out of the seat of their pants.
It was very, very Goonies, Indiana Jones type thing.
Not to mention that you would have had to been physically standing in the exact same spot for it to work.
Yeah.
Yeah, that too. And like, it's just weird. Star Wars usually doesn't do the MacGuffin map thing, like at all. So I don't know why they decided to do it this time.
They've done it twice now.
What's the second time, or the first one?
Force Awakens, the map thing that they had to go after, like the whole movie plot, finding the map to Skywalker.
Yeah, I guess, but that was the plot of the movie, not necessarily the plot of like how to get to the plot of the movie.
So I have a question for you guys. For how did Ben Solo get to Exegol in that TIE LN Star?
Yeah, I was questioning that too. I'm like, that TIE fighter shouldn't have a hyperdrive. So how did you get here exactly?
At the start of the movie, we see a bunch there when they're chasing the Millennium Falcon, and he's skipping.
Some Imperial TIE fighters in the classic Empire age, so some did have hyperdrives. The standard fighters did not, but some did, particularly like the ones like Vader's Advanced and ones after that started having hyperdrives. But yeah, but yeah, Carmine's right. At the start, those TIE fighters jumped into hyperspace after the Falcon, and I was like, whoa, hang on, those shouldn't be able to do that, but they did.
I think that they in the canon for the I guess it's called the TIE FO, the one that they used for the First Order. From what I understand, they did have a hyperdrive, but it wasn't a very long-range one.
Right.
I think that the reason why they did that was they just wanted the symbology of having an X-Wing landed next to a TIE fighter.
Yeah,
it's true. And an OG X-Wing next to an OG TIE fighter.
I was rather excited to see the old Red 5 X-Wing rise again. I like that.
Yeah, that was kind of cool.
There's also, another throwback to his training with Yoda. He's like, hey, I finally did it. I finally raised that X-Wing.
Had to be a Force Ghost to do it, but yes, he finally did it.
Oh, so one thing. So a piece of the movie that I've heard got cut is instead of the voices telling Rey to rise when she's fighting Palpatine, they had actually got a bunch of people on set in costume and were going to Force Ghost it instead, and that would have been super cool.
Oh, that would have been amazing.
You get what? You get Alec Guinness, you get a Kanan, you get an Ayla Secura. Oh, there'd be so many good ones.
Mace Windu and Obi-Wan and Yoda and Luke and presumably Leia at that point, and like
Anakin.
Tons of people. And I've seen on the internet somewhere that somebody recently spotted Ewan McGregor is now bearing the Obi-Wan beard, and they think that maybe that's because he was on set in costume for that scene and then they cut it out, and then he's just going to keep it for Obi-Wan.
So here's a question. Why couldn't Palpatine just stop using Force Lightning?
Because the movie wouldn't make sense, I guess.
He's addicted. Apparently there are addictive qualities to Force Lightning.
He's done it twice now. I think he learned his lesson after the first time.
Well, apparently that reconstituted clone thing, whatever he put himself in, didn't quite have the sense to remember that.
I thought it was pretty cool that the way that they did that scene, though, because I guess the way that it's explained is that the lightsabers themselves were building up the energy from his lightning attack to the point where when she did that force push thing, it pushed all the lightning back at Palpatine.
Oh, an interesting thing I heard recently, and it might have been revealed in the previous movies, maybe as far back as 7. I don't know. If it did, I missed it. But Starkiller Base was used to be the planet Ilum. If that was mentioned before, I never caught that. I find that interesting.
I don't think it was, because I just read about it being in the visual dictionary for the new movie.
Yeah, there was no mention of it anywhere in any of the previous two movies.
It wasn't in a movie. It was in Fallen Order. You get to actually see the planet as it's being turned into Starkiller Base.
Ilum's one of the worlds you can play on in the Old Republic game too, so it stuck out to me.
So they end up, anyways, what it is they determine that Ilum actually has a kyber crystal core. Like, its core is not molten like ours is. It's actually just a giant kyber crystal covered in dirt. And that's what they use as I think it's the core of Starkiller Base.
I want to know who's crewing all those fucking Star Destroyers, because we know how many people it takes to crew those Star Destroyers. Thousands!
20,000 per Star Destroyer.
Well, maybe he made clones too, because, I mean, he had a jar of throwaway Snoke, so he's probably cloning crews like crazy.
Not to mention that these Star Destroyers are actually, I think they said they're 300 meters longer than your standard Imperial 1 class.
They had 30 years. They could have got enough people to do it.
In secret, though? That strains credulity, even for the geek world.
Sure, why not? They didn't figure out the First Order until like recently, from the sounds of it. So,
or the construction of 2 Death Stars and a planet being ripped open into a giant super laser.
Exactly. Galaxy's a big place.
Palpatine really likes his orders, doesn't he? First Order, Final Order, Order 66.
Order 66.
Cheeseburger and fries, apple pie.
Overall impression, it was better than 8.
I enjoyed it. I can usually turn my brain off for the parts I don't like.
I think it was my favorite film of the sequel trilogy.
I would agree with that. I there's a lot of nostalgia in there for, an older fan like me, and I was pretty happy with it.